Hello and welcome to another edition of Bentley Tech EDU. I'm James Bentley and I'm here to help you today learn about all of the light features in Adobe Lightroom. What are the light features? They include such things as obviously exposure and brightness, a little bit of contrast, but mostly it's shadows, highlights, and the overall brightness of an image. Um, it has nothing to do with the color saturation, but we will touch that, and we're also going to hint at a little bit of clarity. As always, I press the auto button and immediately it really transforms the image. This is the starting point from which I'm going to begin. Most people would be very satisfied with the before and the after of Lightroom, but I'm not. I'm really going to go next level. So what do I need to do? I notice that the horizon line of my lake is tilting. So I'm going to crop it, but not cropping it so much to lose or add any more of the image. But as you can see, the lake is just tilting and it's falling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate just a bit to kind of level it out, just a little bit. When I'm satisfied, I think I could probably go a little bit more. It's currently at negative 0.3, or just negative 3. Let's see what goes right there. I notice every time I pull my finger off, it does a little bit of a slight rotate. This is good enough for my online demo. I'd probably work it a little bit more later if I had the time. All right, now what I'm doing is I'm now looking at the corners. The top left corner looks good, but the bottom right corner, I'm going to stretch that out as far as it will go, because I want to get as much of the water and of the lake as I can. And that looks pretty good. When you're satisfied with it, all you got to do is hit the checkbox. Okay, now I've got a lake which is level and flat. It's not going to pour out over a dam or anything because it's flat. And we got a great looking set of things going on. Now onto our light button. Here we go. There it is. You have exposure. So I'm going to kind of slide every slider. I'm going to brighten it up just a little bit more. And I'm going to add a little bit of this. Now, as I do the contrast, notice it starts getting cloudy. I don't want to do too much. And I wouldn't call it cloudy as much as foggy. It was a very foggy morning when I took the photo. It was before the sun was going up. I had just left Canada. And this is Webley Island, way up north in Washington, about 50 miles south of the Vancouver Olympia border. It's a very beautiful place, Webley Island. You can take a road up or you can take the ferry back across. Just basically your car goes on a boat and it's kind of fun. Good start. I always go back and I readjust things multiple times. That was the basic light mode: exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. Now I'm going to go back to this again. As always, I could play with temperature, but I don't want to. Mostly because if I mess with temperature too much, what's going to happen is when I do clarity, you'll see that it starts to go a little bit blue. I might bump up my saturation just a hint, but I got to be careful because the moss and the trees can get a little bit overly done. So I'm going to click saturation a couple times down and only do an 8. Okay, that looks nice. To my next button, the effect button, I'm going to bump up clarity just a hair, a little bit of dehaze, but ooh, you notice it's getting more blue. So I gotta kind of find a balance here. These two buttons really can enhance clouds, but what happens is the more you play with them, they can get a little bit messy and they change with the color tone of the image. So I always say use those sparingly. We'll go into clarity and dehaze in greater detail. Whoops. We'll go into clarity and dehaze at a later moment. Now, what you don't know is I just hit the back button on my edit and oh no, all of my changes are gone. Or are they? Well, let's see what Lightroom does. I'm in a panic. Will it switch it all back? Let's see. Oh, dude, Lightroom is cool. Wasn't that nice? Even though I, quote, made a mistake, all my fixes are still there. And of course, if I wanted, I could go back into history and check my reset button. I could go all the way back, but I'm not even worried about it. So, you just learned something. Look at that. Before, after. My horizon line is still straight. I'm going back to my light. After I did the clarity, things got really blue and weird. And now what I want to do is give it one final touch. Remember my rule? My rule is always touch the sliders one additional time. And I always go back and forth and back and forth. Because now I'm finding in my highlights, if I crank them up, I'm getting more cloud. I like the clouds. Shadows? No, because now the trees are kind of disappearing if I do too much of that. I don't want to overdo my whites. But again, I'm always touching every slider 2 times just to make sure, because you never know. You think you got it. Ooh, it bumped up my vibrance, didn't it? I'm going to drop that down just a little bit more. That's what might be giving it a little bit more of a high digital quality. Saturation, I'll leave it at 8. I feel very, very good about it. Going back to light, again, we're learning all about exposure, contrast, shadows and highlights, whites and blacks. That's what today was about. This was an amazing adventure. Both the traveling and the fixes that I did on my Photoshop files while I traveled the country. It's beautiful land. I went up there on my Christmas vacation, and I would recommend you travel at different times of the year. Spring is different than summer, which is different than winter. Always enjoy these things. Go travel. Go see the world. It's amazing. I save my file, and as I do it, for now, I'm just going to save to my device because I just want the demo to be over. All of you kids who are in my class, don't forget, export your image, make sure it's a JPEG, and also make sure that you save it to the device and then name it as a JPEG. It's pretty easy. I think that was a very fun exercise for today. That's it for Bentley Tech EDU. I'm out of here. Thanks for being along for the ride. I'm James Bentley. Have a great day.